Hey everybody, welcome to another Tuesday night webinar. I always look forward to this presentation. It's one of my personal favorites. There's a lot of really cool content and really good information, but there's also a lot of it. So have your pens and paper ready. For those that haven't noticed yet, the last two webinars are live, available on our website. You can go to avenaoriginals.com, click on the top exciting events, and then live webinars. And you can now play, fast forward, stop, rewind, whatever you want to do with these webinars that are on our website. So feel free to go check those out. And this one will be there shortly after we're done tonight as well too. Hi, Darlene. Looking forward to that rebounder. I'm sure you'll love it as much as everybody else loves the Bellicons. How's everybody else doing tonight? Just waiting for a few other people to come on. We usually get the first couple of minutes. The format tonight's going to be very similar to usual. I'm going to have a presentation that I'm going to walk through. It's got some videos that I'm going to share. Feel free to ask any questions as we're going. And then at the end of my presentation, I'll kind of let everybody know that I'm done. Those that need to leave, by all means, can leave. And anybody that wants to stick around for the question and answer period, you're more than welcome to do that too. All right, let's get started. So I'm just going to share my presentation screen here. Here we are. So if you haven't guessed it yet, tonight's webinar is all about food additives. All of these crazy things that companies and corporations are adding to our food supply that are not food, that don't belong in our food, in my personal opinion, and have very little science supporting the safety of them, especially the safety of them combined with other food additives. Most of these food additives have zero research or zero safety studies whenever you're talking about combining one with the other. So I'm going to title it, You're Being Poisoned, because you truly are. Some of these food additives meet the requirements to be considered dangerous, poisonous, and toxic. I'm going to just spend a little bit of time as we jump through this here. All right. First of all, we need to understand what food is. The word food is a noun, and it means any nourishing substance that is eaten, drank, or otherwise taken into your body designed to sustain life, provide energy, and promote health. So the question is, does the food that you consume every day truly meet this criteria to be called food? Because a lot of the food that we are eating is not designed, what did it say here, to sustain life, provide energy, and promote health. Think about it. A lot of people eat and they're tired afterwards, so it didn't provide energy. A lot of people are eating, we're developing more chronic disease earlier in life than any generation before us. So it's not really even sustaining life or promoting health. So with this in mind, I've kind of prepared an illustration of a store shelf with all kinds of different stuff on it. And we're just going to take some time and we're going to walk through it. Anybody recognize this packaging? TSP. I found my box that I have that I cut out for this pictures was found in the paint section of Canadian Tire. Paint section. It's used to prepare the walls for painting, cleaning your concrete, or decalcifying and cleaning off your paintbrushes, coffee pots, stuff like that. So it is like a cleanser, well, they call it an all-purpose heavy-duty cleaner. Do you notice this symbol? What does that symbol mean? It means corrosive. And if we look over here, may irritate your eyes, irritate your skin. Do not mix with ammonia. Do not get in your eyes. First aid treatment is it contains trisodium phosphate. That's the key active ingredient. If swallowed, call a poison control center or doctor immediately. Do not induce vomiting. If it's in your eyes, rinse with water for at least 15 minutes. If on skin, rinse well with water. So my question to you is, how much TSP would you want to eat every day? And I'm actually going to start a little poll here. If you guys click on the polls, go ahead and give me your answers. How much is okay? Is a small little pinch okay? Maybe a teaspoon per day acceptable? In your life, your body, your health, what do you deem? None, zero. So how do you know what's in your food? How do you know if TSP is in your food? If this heavy duty cleaner is in your food? Because it goes under trisodium phosphate, and you'd be surprised at all the different things that might have trisodium phosphate in them. For example, I picked up this box of Honey Nut Cheerios. No artificial flavoring, meets Canada's health check, naturally flavored, made with real honey. This sounds like a good thing, right? Here's the ingredients. Let me just zoom in for you. See the one I highlighted? Trisodium phosphate. Now, I wasn't able to figure out if it was micrograms, milligrams, grams, or large amounts in there, but it is definitely in your Honey Nut Cheerios. So the question then is, if you are eating Honey Nut Cheerios as part of your nutritious, high fiber diet, how much trisodium phosphate are you ingesting every day? You're right, the poll should really have a none. It was kind of a trick question. Do you guys notice? Does this alarm you guys at all that there is trisodium phosphate in your Honey Nut Cheerios? It concerns me a little bit because I see, new mothers having bags full of Honey Nut Cheerios as snack foods for their young kids. And have we ever tested what trisodium phosphate would do in a young infant? I don't think we have. I don't think we know. And honestly, I don't think we really want to know. I picked up a few other cereal boxes while I was down that aisle, and I was checking different ingredients. I didn't find trisodium phosphate in this All Brands, but I did find BHT. Anybody know what BHT is? Butylated hydroxytoluene. Let me show you a little bit of information of it. It's derived from phenol, which is a carbolic acid. Remember last week when we talked about bowel toxemia and one of these highly toxic chemicals that were coming from tyrosine? One of them was called carbolic acid or phenol. Well, phenol is now being used to create butylated hydroxytoluene, and then it's added back into our cereals. This is something that we are trying really hard to get out of our system. Why in the world would we want to take derivatives of it back into our body? See, long-term exposure to BHT is toxic in mice and rats. It causes liver, thyroid, and kidney problems. It affects lung function and the ability for the blood to coagulate. BHT can act like a tumor promoter. And in certain situations, some evidence even suggests that BAT may mimic estrogen, which is the primary female sex hormone, and it can prevent the expression of male sex hormones like testosterone, resulting in adverse reproductive effects. So Darlene's just asking about the TSP in Cheerios. It is a preservative, yes. And I had a gentleman that really liked Honey Nut Cheerios, and he thought he was doing the right thing for his health. He was so disturbed by finding out that trisodium phosphate, because he was a painter, and he used that stuff all the time. He says, I wore masks and gloves, and I avoided contact with it all the time. I was furious when he found out that it was in his Honey Nut Cheerios. He wrote a letter to General Mills, and he got this standard Dunning letter back from General Mills stating, to whom it concerns, the level of trisodium phosphate inside of the Cheerios meets Health Canada's requirements. We feel it is a necessary buffering agent to help buffer the acidity of the formula and help create a more neutral pH and act as a natural preservative. In other words, we use it because it's cheap and it produces a stable product that can last a very long time, and they have no plans on changing it. Pay attention to this estrogen producing or mimicking foods, because it's going to be present an awful lot tonight. And that's one of the most alarming things that I am seeing in this industry is the fertility problems that young adults are facing. Let's check out our last one, Mucilex, no trisodium phosphate, but again, there's that BHT. Now there's other things in here like hydrogenated vegetable oils, dextroses, vegetable oils, several questionable type of ingredients. But the BHT, I think, is the scariest one. The next food additives I'm going to draw awareness to is called sodium benzenite. See, sodium benzenite occurs naturally, and it can kill fungus, yeast, and other many kinds of bacteria. Benzoic acid, although, does not dissolve in water. And so chemists make a salt of benzoic acid by reacting it with sodium hydroxide, which is also known as lye or caustic soda. And this makes sodium benzenite. The problem here is when sodium benzenite comes in contact with vitamin C, like ascorbic acid, it becomes benzene. And if you guys have ever heard about benzene as a known carcinogenic additive, it causes cancer. It is not allowed in your food supply, yet there's no control of mixing sodium benzenite in a citrus drink. And there's no warning labels of a product that has sodium benzenite in it to not be taken with fruit juices or fresh fruits or vegetables or any vitamin C content foods. So benzene, which is a well-documented cancer-causing agent, in a random sampling of over 200 different types of soft drinks sold in North America from 2005 to 2009, the FDA found sodium benzenite in all of them. 9 were found to have levels well above the federal safety threshold of 5 parts per billion. So we should really think twice before we look at or consider consuming sodas. Even if they're fruit sodas or vegetable sodas, Sprites, Coca-Colas, majority of these will contain sodium benzenite. The other scary fact is how many of these also contain vitamin C components. And the other question I have that I don't know the answer to is how long does sodium benzenite stay in your system? If I'm exposed to sodium benzenite through a food additive, and then later I eat a capsicum pepper or a kiwi or a grapefruit or an orange, maybe several hours later, is that still enough time for those two to interact and produce benzene? What about high fructose corn syrup? This is one of the ugliest sweeteners on the market. And it's something that I've chosen to completely try to avoid at any cost. So here's some of the things that high fructose corn syrup does. First of all, weight gain. A Princeton University study found that high fructose corn syrup caused more weight gain than any other refined sugar did. Cancer cells can readily metabolize fructose and induce rapid reproduction of pancreatic cancer cells. Fatty liver and liver stress. When high fructose corn syrup enters the bloodstream, it's freed up by fructose, travels directly into your liver and overwhelms your liver processing capacity. Right? This is going to lead to a fatty liver. Remember when we talked about fatty livers and the relationship that has to hypoglycemia, toxicity, bowel toxemia, enzyme production, even diabetes? Increased cholesterol levels. It actually increases blood sugar levels, can cause diabetes, high blood pressure problems, heart disease, leaky gut. Do you see? So high fructose corn syrup it's almost in everything. Read your labels, get to know what you're looking for. Look for the acronym HFCS or corn syrup or fructose syrup, right? A lot of these are disguised or similar names that they'll use. What about natural flavors? You guys will see this on the label often. Natural flavoring, also known as MSG or monosodium glutamate. Most doctors and public health know very little about the toxic effects of MSG. Yet they say 30 to 40% of our population is experiencing the harmful effects of what the medical society has recently been calling MSG symptom complexes. And the amount of MSG has doubled in our processed food every 10 years. Common names that MSG is hidden under: autolyzed yeast, hydrolyzed protein, natural flavoring, secret recipe, seasonings, and there's many more, and they're constantly changing. Every time you figure out the words that MSG are using, they're going to change them because they know that people do not like MSG. People get headaches, they get hot flashes, they get allergic reactions, they get anxiety, all these like negative reactions when they're exposed to MSG. But MSG also is the signal processing on your taste buds that make food more flavorful. And so it's addictive. Our bodies will actually crave MSG, or our sensories will actually crave MSG, even though it is poisoning us. What about the world's most MSG abusers? So when I look up online and I find out the companies that are using more MSG in their food than anybody else, KFC is listed as America's most wanted for MSG abuse. Maybe, just maybe, we found out Colonel Sanders' secret recipe. But this goes beyond KFC. Restaurant chicken or any kind of sausage product. Soup, Caesar salads, fish sauces, and soy sauces in restaurants. Ranch dressing, Parmesan cheese, gravy and dipping sauces. French fries. If you have any kind of seasoning on your French fry, it's almost always MSG. Potato chips, especially really bad ones are like the Cheetos and the Doritos. Beef jerky, cold cuts, hot dogs, and over 5,000 other foods that you'll find on your store shelves. Natural flavoring. You guys know what castoreum is? Well, brace yourself for this. This food is a flavoring extracted from the castor sac or anal gland of the male and female beaver. The substance is pretty expensive. Think about what it probably takes to obtain it. But sometimes it's actually then mixed with beaver urine to increase the flavorful effects of castoreum. Where you'll find it? Well, it sounds downright disgusting, but the FDA gives it a GRAS status, which is generally recognized as safe. You won't see this on the food labels because it's listed as natural flavoring. It's natural, all right, natural icky. And I have a video on this I just wanted to share. I'm just going to grab it here and we'll play it.
Seven products you will never eat after watching this video. 7. Vanilla, strawberry, and raspberry ice cream. Certain flavors of ice cream, namely vanilla, strawberry, and raspberry, are longtime favorites, but have a dark secret lurking in their ingredients that not many people are aware of. If you've ever read the list of ingredients and wondered what castoreum is, you're about to find out, but we should warn you that you might not like the answer. Castoreum is actually a chemical that is found in the anal glands of beavers and is a perfect ice cream additive. The FDA says that it's non-toxic and safe to eat, but that doesn't make it any less disgusting. It turns out that castoreum is regularly used to flavor ice cream, which makes us cringe just thinking about how many times we powered through a tub of substance removed from a beaver's anal gland. It's also worth noting that this castoreum is sometimes mixed with actual beaver urine to enhance its properties. 6. Beer is in
So how was that? It's natural, all right. They're totally honest, naturally flavorful, maybe naturally icky. Let's get into some of the really popular ones. Aspartame or artificial sweeteners. Do we know how aspartame is made? I didn't, just until the last couple of years. I knew that I didn't like aspartame and it didn't sit well with my body. But when I looked up the patent on it, which they don't seem to hide the fact on how aspartame is made at all. They're quite proud of it. But it seemed to bother me. Here, number 1 in the patent states the cloned microorganism, which later reveals to be genetically modified versions of E. coli, are cultivated in tanks where environments are tailored to help them thrive. In other words, they want to grow as much genetically modified E. coli as possible. This well-fed E. coli culture defecates the proteins that contain the ingredients needed to make aspartame. The proteins containing this ingredient are then harvested, collected. So what we're doing is we're basically picking up all of E. coli's bacteria's fecal matter or feces. We then treat this species. This includes a process of methylation, adding an excessively high level of toxic alcohol, methanol, to this perfected peptide. Mike Adams from Natural News had this to say: "Well, common sense dictates this abomination doesn't belong anywhere near our bodies. Patent's authors make no secret about their belief that aspartame constitutes a safe and nutritious sweetener." So what do you guys think? Is aspartame safe? Well, you'll find aspartame, NutraSweet, Equal, Spoonful, these type of names are about 200 times sweeter than sugar. And they're in a ton of products. Like, it's ridiculous how many products contain sweeteners. You're going to find it in these type of products: instant breakfasts, breath mints, cereals, sugar-free chewing gum, cocoa mixes, tabletop sweeteners, coffee beverages, topping mixes, tea beverages, even multivitamins, juice beverages, wine coolers, shake mixes, laxatives, instant tea or instant coffees, yogurts, frozen desserts, milk drinks, gelatin desserts, diet pops, and non-prescription pharmaceuticals. It is a 0-calorie sweetener that may not cause you to gain any weight by calorie consumption, but it is definitely toxic and dangerous on the body. In fact, known side effects of aspartame and MSG are things like severe headaches, nausea, hearing loss, tendinitis, insomnia, numbness of your extremities, blurred vision, blindness and eye problems, memory loss, slurred speech, mild to suicidal depression, personality changes, mood changes, anxiety attacks, hyperactivity, sleep disorders, slowed speech, gastrointestinal disorders, seizures, skin lesions, muscle cramps, Alzheimer's, multiple sclerosis, ADD, ADHD, even death is listed as a known symptom of aspartame poisoning. Hey, Darlene, if you're still having problems with sound, just hit the reconnect button. You may have just been dropped from the call temporarily. Xanthan gum. Xanthomonius is a bacteria used that are kept in oxygenated-free environments where they expire polysaccharides. These are mixed with rubbing alcohol to remove the other waste products. It is then dried and ground into a fine powder, which is what you will know as xanthan gum. This is mostly used to replace fat, so that processed foods still feel and give you the texture that fat normally would. So how do you feel about bacteria excrement? So far it's been aspartame, xanthan gum. Let's look at citric acid, a super common preservative. Citric acid can be squeezed naturally from lemons, limes, citrus foods, but this is an expensive and very time-consuming process. It is much easier to grow mold on something like molasses in a low oxygen environment and collect the citric acid that they excrete, again, like a fecal matter excretion. This mold is a black mold that grows on spoiled food. You've probably even seen it, maybe even tasted it by accident. It can make a person sick, but the sugar it secretes is generally recognized as safe. So these are all questions on how much black mold secretion do you want to eat? Should you be checking your food labels? Do you want to understand what these things are? Because if this is really bothering you, you might want to leave now because it just keeps getting worse. When we look at sugar, according to a 1973 study done by Loma Linda University, when you eat 100 grams of sugar, which is about what you'd find in a liter bottle of soda, your white blood cells are 40% less effective at killing germs. This can completely cripple your immune system to up to 5 hours after eating sugar. You wonder why kids get sick so easily? I've witnessed this firsthand. I call my kids on it. Halloween is a great example. They will consume more sugar than I want them to. And we have all kinds of steps in place to minimize sugar around Halloween, but both my kids often end up feeling gross, sick and tired the following days after Halloween. We talk about it coming, they do it anyways, and then afterwards, they recognize that they are sick because of the sugar. It's completely crippled their immune system. We rely on our immune system every day to protect us. So, isn't it important that we maintain a strong, healthy system? Get your sugars from whole foods. Stop adding sugar to your food. And if you have to cook with sugars, look for other ways of sweetening it. Use like a natural honey or full maple syrup or even like a stevia leaf. I'm just going to show you, I'm going to inject the video in a different way here. So here's a video that I'm going to add, and it's going to show you the difference on all the places sugar can be hiding in your lifestyle. And it's always going to come back to eating the whole food. A strawberry is far better than a dried strawberry, or strawberry jam, or strawberry drink. Raisins versus grapes, all that sort of thing. Yes, thank you, Yuki. I forgot to turn my mic back on. I was saying, you guys ready for more? Don't be discouraged, because by the end of this, I have a solution. I have a solution that naturally prevents all of these type of things, and also a solution on how you can get rid of all this stuff out of your body. So bear with me here. Some of the top reasons why I personally think you should avoid food dyes. First of all, they're made from petroleum, so it's not a food product. And if we're wanting to get back to real food, then food dyes don't constitute as food. 2, red dye number 40, yellow 5 and 6 contain benzene. Remember benzene from the previous slide, the known cancer-causing agent? Why is that still allowed in our food supply? Red dye 40 and yellow 5 and 6 are still used today. This is popular in all kinds of foods, such as Kraft Dinner's cheese to make it yellow, pickles to make it green, chips and candies, like a bag of Skittles, for example, are full of all these food dyes. Number 3, ADD and ADHD risk. An Australian study examining food dye effects on over 200 different children found that 75% of parents noticed an improvement in behavior and attention once food dyes were eliminated from their child's diet. A close friend of mine and somebody I work with here in the office has a child diagnosed with ADHD. And when she removed food dyes, it was a substantial change. Then she removed wheat and dairy, and even a better change. And once she brought in the Avena supplementation, like the E-fusion enzymes and cleansing, one of the favorite sentences I remember her saying is, "We can now have conversations instead of screaming matches." Number 4, estrogen. Sunset yellow, which is yellow number 6, or tartrazine, yellow number 5, have been shown to behave like estrogen in the human body. Why is this bad? Because high levels of estrogen, regardless of the source, can contribute to breast cancer, infertility, and may cause decreased male sex drive, along with many other highly undesirable effects. If we know yellow dye number 6 and 5 contain benzene and are cancer-causing and hormone endocrine disruptors, why in the world do we keep using them? Why are they even allowed in our food supply? Well, when I tried to find the answer to this, the best answer I got is because we don't have a healthier version. So they are continuing to be allowed until a better version exists. But you know what? I found a whole food source that you can use as a food coloring for yellow, and it's really healthy. Anybody have any guesses what it is? It's turmeric. Turmeric works fantastic at staining everything yellow. And it's got all kinds of health properties to it. If we want to stain something green, we can use things like spinach. And if we want to stain things red, we could use beets. Right? They are natural occurring dyes in whole foods that we don't have to worry about the toxic ingredients because they're whole foods. I have some more. What about genetically modified organisms? So genetically modified organisms, there's a lot of controversy over this. And I'm just going to share a little bit of what I feel. I'm obviously not supporter of genetically modified organisms. First of all, organ damage and infertility. The American Academy of Environmental Medicine urges doctors to prescribe non-GMO diets for all of its patients. They cite animal studies showing organ damage, gastrointestinal immune system disorders, accelerated aging, and infertility. This is a concern for me. Here we are at that infertility again, and gastrointestinal and immune system disorders. This ties into what we were talking about last week with bowel toxemia quite a bit. What about the dangerous side effects? Genetically engineering creates dangerous side effects. By mixing genes of totally unrelated species, genetic engineering unleashes a host of unpredictable side effects, things that we don't even know what to look for or to study. Moreover, this type of genes that are being inserted, the very process of creating a genetically modified plant can result in massive collateral damage that produces new toxins, new allergens, new cancer-causing agents, and new nutritional deficiencies that we have never seen before. We can't test for, we don't even know that they exist until they've done enough considerable damage that we can discover what they are. There's also false studies proving safety. Biotech companies like Monsanto, now known as Bayer, told us that Agent Orange, PCBs, and DDT were perfectly safe. They're now using the same superficial rigged research to try to convince us that genetically modified foods are also safe, even though independent scientists have caught the spin masters red-handed, demonstrating without doubt how the industry-funded research is designed to avoid finding the problems, and how adverse findings are often distorted or denied. And so what they're saying is that if you know that genetically modified foods can cause cancer in certain situations, you'll do research that avoids that situation so that you never find that problem. And so you can produce safety studies that look like they're producing safe because they were genetically designed to do the safety study in a way that would avoid finding the problems. What about threatening other species? GMO crops and their associated herbicides can harm birds, insects, amphibians, complete marine ecosystems, soil organisms, and they will definitely reduce the biodiversity and pollute water resources as well. Some examples that they cite here are things like the monarch butterfly habitats have been destroyed by 50%, and honeybees are declining at alarming rates. Both of these are believed to be directly tied to GMOs. Now, I know a bee farmer, and that's how he makes his living, is honey and honeybees. And when the farmer next door started spraying their crops with GMOs, they had a rapid declining rate in the survival rate of their honeybees, to the point where his entire hive was also decimated, almost decimated by GMOs. That was the only thing that changed in his environment. And other than that, everything was thriving. Number 5, GMOs offer nothing in solving global hunger and improving nutrition. Now, this all information is coming from this responsiblebiotechnology.org. You can cite and look at the research. The International Assessment of Agricultural Knowledge, Science, and Technology for Development report authored that more than 400 scientists and backed by 58 different governments stated that GMO crops yields were highly variable, and in some cases, yields declined. The uncertainty about possible benefits and damage is unavoidable. They determined that the current genetically modified organisms or foods have little to nothing to offer the goals of reducing hunger, poverty, improving nutrition, health, and rural livelihoods. So what they're saying here is often we didn't get any more food when we used genetic modified foods. Secondly, sometimes we got less food. And if we look at the risks associated with genetically modified foods and we're not getting any extra, then it's offering little to nothing in solving the nutritional problem and the global hunger. Why would we use genetically modified foods? Right? Why would we? What about fluoride? Fluoride isn't necessarily something you're going to see on food labels, but you'll find it on your toothpaste labels. A material safety data sheet, when we look up fluoride, this substance may be toxic to your kidneys, your lungs, your nervous system, your heart, gastrointestinal tract, cardiovascular system, bones, teeth. Repeated or prolonged exposure to the substance can produce targeted organ damage. Repeated exposure to highly toxic material like fluoride may produce general deterioration of health by an accumulation or one or many organs. Ingestion. If you ingest fluoride, do not induce vomiting unless directed to do so by a medical professional. Get medical attention immediately. This is concerning for me because don't they fluorinate our water? So aren't a high majority of the population swallowing and orally ingesting fluoride every day? This infographic I thought compelling, water or fluoride? When your water becomes a delivery system for a pharmaceutical agent like fluoride, that should be concerning. See, fluoride is the only drug that is forced on a mass medication level of the population with no control of dosing. So if you're drinking very high levels of water every day, trying to do good for your health, you could actually be exposing yourself to harmful levels of fluoride. Sodium silicate fluoride or hydrofluorosilicic acid are the most common types of fluoride in your drinking water. Sodium silicate fluoride and hydrofluorosilicic acid are waste products of the wet scrubbing systems of the fertilizing industry, and they're classified as hazardous waste. These are hazardous waste that we're putting back in our water and feeding back to humanity. That concerns me a lot. There's 23 human studies and over 100 different animal studies that were linking fluoride to brain damage. And 50% of ingested fluoride is deposited in the bones of children, whereas only about 10% is stored in the bones of adults. 41% of American children are having dental fluorosis, which is the white spots forming on kids' teeth. This is caused by excessive levels of fluoride. And 99% of the fluoride added to our water goes down the drain and into our environment. Think about all the toilets and showers and sinks and dishwashers and washing machines, all of that. Fluoride is linked to a lower IQ. Fluoride is added to about 70% of US public drinking water supplies. The benefit is dubious at best. There's practically no difference in tooth decay between fluorinated and non-fluorinated countries. And there's no difference between states that fluorinate a high level of, twisting my tongue here. There's no difference between states that fluorinate at a high level versus low percentages of their water. Yet, while fluoride in drinking water does not decrease the rates of tooth decay, numerous studies show that the chemical has a wide array of devastating health effects. And one of them is suggested to be lowering the IQ levels. So possible symptoms of fluoride poisoning: arthritis, asthma, bloating or painful cramps, cold temperatures below normal, feeling cold all the time, colic in a bottle-fed babies or colic developing when breastfed babies start solids, dental fluorosis, diabetes, eyesight problems, fatigue, weakness, brain fog, fibro, gastrointestinal problems, gum disease, heart palpitations, increased heart rate without exertion, kidney disease, skin issues like hives, blisters, rashes on your stomach, thyroid diseases, underactive hypothyroid or overactive hypothyroid, grave disease, goiters, and nodules. Think about how many people you probably know that have thyroid problems, and how many people are being recommended to avoid fluorinated drinking water or fluoride toothpaste. Very few of them. I don't know why this information isn't better communicated. We've probably all seen this picture. Pink slime. What I've been able to discover, right? So a lot of this information has rapidly been suppressed on the internet. But after you mechanically separate meat, you're left with fat, high levels of fat that contain small amounts of meat. And the effort in this food industry to obtain every aspect of this, they basically add ammonia and this process that makes this pink slime, which is what looks like right here. This pink slime is then often turned back in and added back into the meat. And yes, so we're mixing this in with meat. Things like meat glue is another example. Ice cream. Before you guys cringe here and say, don't ruin my ice cream, there's something in soft serve ice cream that you need to be aware of called propylene glycol. Now, propylene glycol is the active ingredient in antifreeze. It's a synthetic substance that absorbs water. It's often used as a commercial lubricant. It's a key component to antifreeze and deodorant sticks. It's also used in fast food as a solvent to make spice concentrates. We also use it to make food colorings and flavorings. It can be found in things such as Subway's breakfast sandwiches, soft serve ice creams, and many other fast food items. Toxology information, well, I just highlighted a few, but you can read all of these. Behavioral, central nervous system, convulsions, seizures, solace, stupor, muscle contraction, hypotension, cardiac arrhythmias, cardiac arrest, endocrine system like hypoglycemia, urinary system like kidneys, liver. How much propylene glycol do you want to consume every day? check your labels. This whole purpose of this conversation and this webinar tonight is to make you better aware at your food labels. So that when you're in the grocery store and you're picking up a possible food, whether it's organic or not, or healthy looking or not, read the labels, identify the food items, and choose if it's something you want to have in your body or in your family or not. Sodas. I've got a video here to share as well. This video I'm going to share, I pulled off YouTube. It's called the Honest Coca-Cola Commercial. And what somebody did is they took a Coca-Cola commercial, they muted the audio, and dubbed in their own audio track. And I'm just going to share it here in just a second. Where are we? Videos.
For over 125 years, we've been bringing people together. Today, we'd like to come together on something that concerns all of us: obesity. The long-term health of our families and the country are at stake, and as the nation's leading beverage company, we have played an important role. Across our portfolio of over 650 beverages, we now offer 180 low and no-calorie choices. These diet beverages still pose serious health risks. Even though we've reduced the calories per serving, these beverages can still cause kidney problems, obesity, metabolic syndrome, cell damage, and rotting teeth, which leaves 470 beverages which have extremely high, unhealthy levels of calories. Consuming large amounts of rapidly digested sugar and high fructose corn syrup causes a spike in blood sugar and insulin, which can lead to inflammation and insulin resistance, both of which may increase your risk of stroke, heart disease, diabetes, obesity, and cancer. Coke has also been known to accelerate aging and cause high cholesterol. The American Heart Association recommends consuming no more than 450 calories from sugar-sweetened beverages per week, the amount in about 3 cans of soda. Imagine if cigarette companies said they were doing something responsible to protect you. How would you react to that? Beating obesity will take action by all of us, based on one simple, common-sense fact. All calories are not the same, and the calories in Coca-Cola products have no nutritional value. If you choose to live a healthy lifestyle, then you should not be drinking any of our products. If you drink Coke, you'll get fatter and fatter. The solution is simple, and it's right in front of your eyes. Don't drink Coke. It's killing you and your family. Coca-Cola. We're partially responsible for America's obesity problem.
Funny commercial, eh? Or dub. There's another one here that's really popular. It's got a little bit of questionable language in it, but I'm going to share it anyways. Let's watch.
Hot out? Need to cool down? Instead of water, might I suggest an ice-cold bottle of candy? We added some water and bubbles to it so you can pretend it's a drink. It's not. It's basically syrup. But my competitors and I have spent decades and billions of dollars to slowly make the general public associate our product with fun, happiness, togetherness, and in some cases entire holidays, which thankfully happen regularly, forever. Point is, you're probably already on board with the idea of consuming wet sugar with bubbles in it. So I'm not going to spend any more money on this, nor am I going to pay a celebrity millions of dollars to tell you to drink wet sugar with bubbles in it. I don't need to. You love it. Hi, I'm some guy named Roger, and if it's hot out, or you like having friends, or some other virtually universal aspect of life, I think you should buy some Horton brand effervescent liquid candy. But more importantly, buy some for your kids. Of course, if your child goes to public school, we have huge stakes in their lunch programs, so we'll just sell it to them directly and cut you entirely out of the equation. You can even put money in a glass box and get a wide variety of flavors. caramel dye. If you knew how much sugar a human is supposed to consume in a day, very little, and how much sugar is in one bottle of wet sugar, lots, you probably wouldn't drink it. And we want you to drink it. So we bullied the FDA into letting us straight up not give you that information. But if you're really concerned, we can put the word diet somewhere on the can and replace the piles of natural sugar with chemicals that are so incompatible with human biology that our bodies don't even metabolize them. That's gonna slide right through me. Luckily, we're pretty sure these chemicals don't cause any lasting damage, well, except bladder cancer in laboratory animals and other kinds of cancer in other laboratory animals. But you're a human, so f*** it. Sweet, sweet acid. Yes, acid is the right word. If I pour a bottle of cool, refreshing, sugary acid onto a car, it will literally strip away the paint. But we don't pour it on cars. We pour it in our mouths, past our teeth, into our tummies. And you'll pay more money than you should for it, even though it costs almost nothing to produce. The container, actually, is the most expensive part. Could you save that for me? An awful lot of water went into making that. I'm Roger. Buy some. Can I get my stomach pumped?
Thanks, guys. I keep forgetting I mute myself for the video and then I forget to add it again. So both those videos were something I found on YouTube. Horton's Cola was the first one, and Coca-Cola's Honest Commercial was the second one. Getting back to this presentation on food additives, it goes beyond just the foods that we're eating, but other things we put in our mouth. Things like toothpaste. Imagine toothpaste in your mouth. It is sitting next to that membrane right underneath your tongue, which absorbs faster than any other membrane in your body. So when we look at the ingredients, on each box you'll find this. Adults and children 2 years and older brush teeth thoroughly after meals or at least twice a day, or use as directed by a dentist or physician. Do not swallow. Children under the age of 6 years old, to minimize swallowing, use a pea-sized amount and supervise until good habits are established. Children under 2 years, ask a dentist or physician. Now, warning, keep out of reach of children 6 years of age or of age. If you accidentally swallow more than used for brushing, which was a pea-sized amount, seek professional help and contact the Poison Control Center immediately. This is because it contains fluoride and trisodium phosphate. Both of these are toxic. When was the last time you saw a 4, 5, or 6-year-old use a pea-sized amount of toothpaste? And if they put it in their mouth, they're absorbing it through that membrane. A lot of kids will swallow it. I went to a scout camp with 5 to 7-year-olds, and I was shocked to see kids drinking, not even drinking, but eating, like squeezing toothpaste directly into their mouth by like the tablespoonful and eating it because it was so full of aspartame and sugars and artificial flavorings that they made it taste like bubble gum or strawberry candies. But don't worry, because there's a healthy Tom's natural toothpaste, right? When I looked up at Tom's toothpaste, I bought it. Here's what I found on the label. The exact same warning, because it also contained trisodium phosphate and fluoride, along with other questionable ingredients. But warning, keep out of reach of children 6 years of age. If you accidentally swallow more than used for brushing, seek professional help or contact the Poison Control Center immediately. Okay, for real, when was the last time any one of us brushed our teeth, swallowed a pea-sized amount of it by accident, picked up the phone and called Poison Control Center immediately? What would Poison Control Center even do if you called them and say, oh my goodness, I just swallowed more than a pea-sized amount of toothpaste, or my child just consumed more than a pea-sized amount of toothpaste? They'd probably laugh at you, right? Wouldn't they? Let's talk about glyphosate, also known as Roundup or Roundup Ready foods. You won't see this on labels because it's inside of the whole food, but it's becoming a real issue. So glyphosate dangers: ADHD, Alzheimer's, autism, birth defects, cancer, celiac or gluten intolerances, colitis, depression, diabetes, heart disease, hypothyroidism, leaky gut, Lou Gehrig's disease, MS, lymphoma, Parkinson's, infertility, miscarriages, obesity, respiratory illnesses, decreased testosterone, delayed puberty, bowel toxemia. The little footnote there, this information came from ecowatch.com. Roundup, part of nutritious diet, said nobody ever. Independent research shows that probable harm to human health begins at relatively low levels of exposure. So 0.01 parts per billion of glyphosate is problematic for human health. Remember that, 0.1 parts per billion is problematic for human health. Because the following slides, I'm going to show you studies they did on finished product foods and the alarming levels of glyphosate found in these foods. First of all, look up at that Cheerios again. And I hate to pick on Cheerios, I'm not doing it intentionally. But Cheerios contained 1,125 parts per billion of glyphosate. That should be incredibly alarming. If 0.0 or 0.1 parts per billion are problematic to health, this is now 10,000 times greater than the problematic level. Honey Nut Cheerios, 670. Wheaties, 31 parts per billion. Trix, 9.9 parts per million. What about Annie's gluten-free bunny cookies, cocoa, and vanilla? At 55 parts per billion. I'm just going to draw attention to this. Gluten-free should have no glyphosate in it. So glyphosate is sprayed on our wheat, and then it's transferred into our products through the gluten in the wheat. So when you do gluten-free bunny cookies that should have no wheat in them at all, where in the world is 55 parts per billion coming from? Well, the asterisk there will be presented at the bottom of this slide, and it's showing that the glyphosate is in the soil, it's in the water supply, and it's cross-contaminating even organic foods. Look at this list from Kellogg's, Corn Flakes, Raisin Bran, Organic Promise, organic. No glyphosate is allowed to be sprayed on organic food. Still, when we tested the finished product, 24 parts per billion. Special K, Frosted Flakes, Cheez-Its, soft-baked cookies, Ritz crackers, Triscuits, Oreos. These are all excessively higher levels of what they should be. But the list goes on. Stacy's Naked Pita Chips, Kettle Cooked Originals, Doritos, Goldfish crackers, oatmeal cookies that are gluten-free. This gluten-free cookie from Lucy's had more glyphosate in it than most of the non-organic foods. The 365 organic golden round crackers, again, organic, shouldn't have any glyphosate in it, but it does. So the asterisks here say, these samples exhibit very low recovery and response. The above amounts found are rough estimates at best and may not represent an accurate representation of that sample. Widespread contamination in our food supply. Even organic farmers are having their crops and food contaminated. This is coming from Food Democracy Now! So let's land this crazy trip that we've been on by, are these chemicals safe? Health Canada and the FDA do require food additives to meet safety standards before they can be allowed in our food supply. Each ingredient is tested in a controlled environment, isolated by itself until it shows that no immediate toxic effect can be observed. The important note here is none of these ingredients have ever been tested together in combination with the hundreds that are already in your food supply. Science has no idea of the toxic effects of long-term exposure to a vast array of chemical additives in our diet and environment. In other words, when we go throughout our day and we're exposed to 50 different food additives and chemical additives, we have zero knowledge on what the combination of those ingredients are going to do in our body. They could be producing some of the worst carcinogenic foods or endocrine disruptors or obesity-causing reactions in our system. And the answer is we have no idea, because we've only ever tested them isolated, one at a time, never in combination with other food additives. So you're probably frustrated. You're probably a little scared of food supplies. I may have wrecked some of the foods you really enjoyed. What I want to present to you in the coming slide here is, if you got back to real food, like food off the tree, out of the ground, whole foods, you wouldn't have to worry about any of these, because it's almost impossible to add artificial sweeteners and food dyes and stuff into whole foods. But if you went to organic, locally produced whole foods, you'd be totally okay. Imagine switching to a plant-based, whole food, living food diet. Simply by doing this, almost 0% of this entire presentation applies to you. You naturally avoid all of it. But because that's not reality for most of us on the call today, I want to talk about how do we get these toxins out of our system? Because that's the important part. A lot of you guys are realizing, oh my goodness, I've been exposing myself to trisodium phosphate or BHTs or food dyes and fluorides and artificial sweeteners, and we want to get it out. I think in today's world, detoxification is no longer a luxury, it is a necessity if we want to live a healthy life. And Avena Originals produces the only product line formulated from the very beginning to have the greatest detoxification abilities. We are designed from day one to be focused around gut health. So here's how you can reclaim your health tonight. First of all, incorporate a product called Herb Cocktail. Use this 2, if not 3 times a day. It will pull toxins, food additives, and chemicals out of your tissues, out of your glands, into your intestinal system, where it forms into a gel. That gel traps a very high percentage of these toxins in that gel, preventing it from ever being reabsorbed. It then puts pressure on the intestinal lining, which stimulates the healthy and natural peristalsis, muscle contraction of your bowels. You can eliminate 3 to 4 times as many toxins using the Herb Cocktail as you can without it. Second of all, enzymes. Enzymes are a massive detoxification catalyst. They are the active workers that get inside of your organs, inside of your tissues, and can detach these chemicals from your organs. They're the gut wall transporters that pull toxins from your bloodstream into your gut for elimination. They also break down our food so we can absorb it and utilize it better, allowing our body to be able to distinguish between these toxic food ingredients and eliminate them. And the last one is proteolytic probiotics. These also play a major detoxification role. They help set up the entire pH, the entire microbiome of our entire small intestine. And that is going to set the stage for our bodies to be able to eliminate properly. See, 99% of the population in North America is not having proper eliminations. So what we're doing is we're holding on to these toxins way longer than we should. The longer we hold on to these toxins, the more harm they are doing in our bodies. So if we go back through the countless generations, all the way back to like the Egyptians and the Aztecs and the Mayans, we still see cases of detoxification. They did it through fasting. And yet today, fasting isn't really an option, because we would have to fast almost 1 day out of every day that we eat foods. That'd be 6 months of fasting to try to even equate the detoxification that our ancestors used to do. That's why I think supplementation like the Herb Cocktail enzymes and probiotics are a necessity. They are an absolute necessity in today's world. thank you everybody for coming. I've got a special promo code that I want to provide for you guys tonight. You guys can take 10% off your purchase tonight on the line, on the website, since our phones are closed. It functions until midnight. It is SAVE 721. Again, that coupon code is 721. And I'm just going to write it as a sticky on top. Right here. Coupon code 721. So that can be used. The requirements are your shopping cart has to be at least $100 before you apply the coupon code. It'll then give you 10% off any coupon eligible product. This applies to Avena products, like any Avena labeled products. It does not apply to rebounders, juicers, dehydrators, books, or non-Avena produced items. And yes, Darlene, unfortunately, the coupon codes are only valid from the webinar until midnight. So if you can't utilize it today, Darlene, feel free to send it to a family member or a friend or somebody who could. All right, so this is the opportunity. I'm going to turn off the presentation, go back to my webcam, and I'm just going to go through some of the questions here and answer any questions that were asked while I was giving my presentation. First one I see here, I don't know if it's a question, but Holly's saying, good reading enzyme nutrition book you recommended a few weeks ago. I had no clue how important enzymes and how extensive a role they play in the body. Thanks so much for carrying on your website. I'm learning so much and I'm stunned that this information isn't being taught. Well, Holly, it is being taught. I'm trying to teach it. Other people are trying to teach it. And outside of North America, it's a lot more common knowledge. European unions and a lot of European countries, medical systems actually using enzymes as part of therapy. North America, we're quite behind. And so we've got some catching up to do. I'm glad to see that a lot of you guys don't want to have very much trisodium phosphate. I feel sorry for whoever answered the poll wanting to drink the entire container of trisodium phosphate. I don't think any doctor or medical association would support or suggest such a crazy attempt. What is the purpose in TSP? I answered that already. Terry just finished eating a box of Cheerios thinking it was a healthy breakfast. That's what they want you to believe. But if you look at some of the ingredients that are in there, they're definitely questionable. And I don't know if those ingredients still constitute part of a nutritious breakfast. Sorry for the audio mishaps there. That was totally my bad. Holly, shocked at the green tea. Yeah, so if you make green tea out of yourself, out of a tea bag, it contains 0 sugars. As soon as you buy a green tea beverage, the amount of sugar they put in there to make it enjoyable for people is ridiculous. I was shocked at that too. What is the relationship between food dyes and eczema in kids? Well, we don't know exactly. We don't know if it's just food dyes, but often foods that have food dyes have these other chemicals. And these chemicals, these food additives across the board are adding an enormous amount of stress. And when your liver can't process it and your intestinal system can't process it, then the skin tries to help processing it. And as it comes through the skin, it can manifest as psoriasis and eczemas. Is GMO the same as Roundup Ready? I don't know. I would have to look into that. Roundup Ready, I think, is a genetically modified food that is designed to be able to take Roundup and not be damaged by the food. But that's just me speculating. Darlene thinks that herb cocktail is a superhero. Fixed our family up so quickly when anything gets to one of us. That's good to hear. Linda's asking, how many herb cocktail enzymes and probiotics should a person take per day? Well, I think this varies between person, needs, situations that they're in. So herb cocktail, for myself, I use a tablespoon twice a day. When I'm in a detox, I'll use it 3 times a day. And that makes just a world of difference in how I feel, my energy levels, my digestion, my eliminations, all of that. I also take 5 enzymes with every meal. I take 5 enzymes in between every meal. If I'm feeling run down, sick, tired, or fighting any kind of infection, I'll take 5 with each meal, but then I'll take anywhere from 20 to 30 in between meals. And proteolytic probiotics, I ferment that into my foods, but I also take 10 capsules before bed and 1 to 2 capsules with every meal that I eat. That's what I do. Try it. If you can try those levels, I guarantee you'd feel like a different person. But not everybody can afford those type of levels. I'm not even necessarily saying I can afford it. I make myself afford it by pulling other parts of my budget. Driving older vehicles, not going out, not eating out, not buying lavish foods or expensive clothing. I try to make it work because the more I research on enzymes and probiotics, the more I personally decide to make that a priority in my life. And so it varies for each person. I'm more than happy to do a consult. And you can call me at the office and we can work out the ideal numbers within your budget, within your needs, and try to create the best protocol we can for your needs. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the information tonight. I know some of that information is all about the negatives that are in our food supply, and I don't like to really dwell a lot on the negative stuff in foods and in our environment, but at the same time, you and me, we need to be informed shoppers. And the only way to become really informed shoppers is to know what these ingredients are. I try not to tell you what to do and what not to do. It was more about an education where you can determine which ones you're okay with being in your food and which ones you're not. Is the herb cocktail okay to drink with just water if you ran out of orange juice? Yes, absolutely. There's no harmful benefits from it. Just over 25 years, we've had a large group of people say they get better results with orange juice than without. And I personally experienced the same thing too. When I take a pulpy orange juice, I notice increased effectiveness of the herb cocktail compared to if I just try to take it with water. No, Michelle, the 10% is on your entire order, whatever Avena product you want to purchase, even products we didn't talk about tonight. As long as they're Avena labeled products, 10% should work on it. And that'll apply to your whole shopping cart. Andrea is asking if potassium citrate or sorbates are okay, and malic acids. So malic acid comes from apples. And normally, if you're getting it from an apple or like an apple cider vinegar, it's totally okay. It's actually really good for you. Just be cautious of synthetically produced malic acids made in a chemical lab synthetically without using the whole food. And regarding about the potassium sorbate, I'd have to look into that. You could Google search a little bit about it. I don't have the answer for that one memorized. Yuki, I'm glad that you're using the eFusion and you're able to take that. And the combination of RP3 and the eFusion is working really well for you. It's such an amazing product that I'm sure you'll notice the benefits of that. Education is key, and informed choice is important, right? If you guys are okay with TSP, go ahead and ingest it. If you're okay with yellow dye number 5 and 6 containing benzene and potentially being cancer causing, go ahead and do it. But I would hate for the person trying to avoid things like benzene and not understanding the BHTs and the foods and the benzoic acids, the ways of producing these. So my goal here is to educate and inform. The more you know, the better choices you can make. The better choices you make, the better life you can have. So Michelle, the little scoop that is inside of your proteolytic probiotic, it's tiny for a reason. It is a 500 milligram scoop. So that is designed to match the capsule. So each scoop is equal to 1 capsule. So when I talk about taking 2 capsules of probiotics with my food, that means 2 of those little scoops. If I'm taking 10 capsules before bed, you would use 10 scoops of that. And that's why that scoop is chosen, because it's a really easy way to equate capsules into scoops. So it's not just there to be a nuisance. What a lot of people do is they count how many of those little scoops fit into like a culinary teaspoon, and they'll know that, okay, one rounded teaspoon is like 6 or 7 capsules or scoops of prolytic probiotics. So then they can use a culinary teaspoon every time, knowing they're getting about 7. But because culinary teaspoons change in quantities all the time, that little scoop is a great way of measuring a capsule equal to a scoop. All right, everybody, remember the coupon code SAVE721. Go ahead and use that tonight. You have until midnight, 10% off on your entire order. If you're a member, you can combine that with your free shipping for purchases over $250. You will also, in the month of July, are getting double web points. So if you're a member and you're earning a point per dollar you spend, you can get double the amount of points, so 2 points per dollar you spend, free shipping over $250, as well as 10% off your order tonight. If you're not already detoxifying, and if this information didn't inspire you to detoxify more, this might be a great time to bring on the herb cocktail, the enzymes, the probiotics, amp up your levels and experience detoxification. Remove that burden off of your body by assisting in the elimination of all these toxic food ingredients. I want you guys to have a wonderful evening. I really enjoyed being here with you guys tonight. It's a pleasure as always. Stay tuned next week. I'm not sure exactly what the topic will be. Likely be about enzymes or probiotics next week. And yeah, let's stay healthy. Let's inspire this. If this information did well for you, and if you got value out of it, please let me know. If you know other people that would value from this information, please pass this link on. You'll receive a replay link shortly in your inbox. You can share that link. It's not going to expire. Share this with friends and family members, and they can watch this. Or you can direct them directly to our website under exciting events, live webinars, and you'll be able to see a copied version of tonight's presentation where they can fast forward, rewind, pause. You could send them to exact time frames if there's certain information they need to hear. All right, you guys are all wonderful. Have a good evening. We'll talk again soon. Don't be afraid to call us at the office. All the support staff are more than happy to be here to support, to answer your questions, place your orders, however we can help you. Have a wonderful evening, guys. Good night.